Hey guys, it's Dana from Minimalist Baker, and today I'm going to show you how to cook quinoa. Did you know that quinoa is actually not a grain, it's a seed? It's also super nutritious, really high in fiber and protein, and it's a great alternative to rice. It can be a little bit tricky to cook, but I'm going to share a few tips to help you out with that today, and so you will cook perfect quinoa every time. Let's do it. So the first thing to know about quinoa is you have the option to soak it, like most grains, before you cook it. And the reason why you would soak it is to speed up cooking time, and also grains have this tricky little thing called phytic acid that can make it a little bit hard to digest. If you soak your grains ahead of time, it opens them up a little bit, like you can start to see in the quinoa, it has these little spirals that come out, and that's just gonna make it way easier for your body to absorb, which makes it more nutritious. In general, you just want to pour your quinoa into a bowl. You can rinse it first if you'd like. Cover it with lukewarm water, and then you'll just let it soak for 6 to 8 hours, uncovered at room temperature or overnight. Once it's been soaked, you can drain and rinse it, and then it's ready to cook. To actually start cooking your quinoa, you just want to get a saucepan and heat it over medium heat. Once it's hot, you can just add your quinoa and saute it for 2 to 3 minutes. And this just helps evaporate some of the excess water, and it also gives the quinoa a slightly toasted, nutty flavor. So once you've kind of sauteed it, stirred it for a few minutes, you can add in your water. And you want to heat that over high heat and bring it to a boil. If you soaked your quinoa, you won't need quite as much water to cook it with. So if you soaked, for instance, 1 cup of quinoa like we just did, you'll just need 1.5 cups of water. But if you did not soak your quinoa, it'll take a little bit longer to cook, and you'll need slightly more water. So once you've added your water, there is an option to add a little bit of seasoning at this point. I tend to prefer adding a pinch of salt, maybe a little curry powder, depending on what I'm serving it with. It's totally optional. You know, grains don't need any seasoning, but I do like to include this as an optional step. Once it's boiling, you want to cover it and bring it down to low and simmer it for about 15 to 18 minutes. It's really important also to keep your quinoa cooking at a consistent simmer. You don't want it to get too high or it can burn on the bottom of the pan. And if it's cooking too slowly, it'll just kind of get a little gummy. Once it hits about the 15 or 18 minute mark, then you can crack the lid, and if you can see that the water is absorbed and the quinoa appears kind of like fluffy and dry, then you'll know it's ready. And at this point, you can just let some of the steam just kind of get out of the pot, because that's what tends to make it get sticky and gummy, and I just like to let it cool uncovered. The great part about quinoa is once you have cooked a large batch of it, you can keep it in the refrigerator for about 5 or 7 days covered, or you can even freeze it for up to a month. To heat it back up, you can either do that in the microwave, or my preferred is just heating a skillet over medium heat, adding a little bit of oil and sauteing it until it is nice and toasty and warm. And that is how you cook perfect quinoa every time. If you need some inspiration on what to do with your quinoa now that it's cooked, check the links below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye.